Hello, good morning everybody. My name is Michelle Wills and welcome to the video. Now in this video I aim to expose the corrupt organisation which is Sanctuary Housing, who, depending on where you look, they have anywhere between 80,000 to 120,000 plus properties throughout the United Kingdom. Now, those of you who've been following my channel, my videos previously about Sanctuary will know the basics of the story, but I'll just give new viewers a quick recap. So, it was in just before Easter of 2022, so nearly 4 years ago now, when I was coming home from visiting my mother, and as I was climbing steps leading into a block of flats at Charlton House where I live, I noticed the housing officer, Emma Bowden, by the washing line, a communal washing line, and she was talking to a resident of flat number 1, known to me as Larry. Now I stopped, said hi to both Larry and the housing officer, and I then said to the housing officer about the state of the building. Previous videos will show photos of the disgusting state of disrepair the building was, and more especially the two doors. So there are two communal entrance doors. So we got blocks, flats number 1 to 16. That's where I have a flat, and the lower block 17 to 30. So 30 flats here in all. I believe 1 bedroom, which is me, 2 bedroom, and I believe there are 1 or 2 3-bedroom flats on the property. So both communal doors did not have a lock. The actual locking mechanism was missing, and there was just a hole. Again, previous videos will show that. So I mentioned this to Emma Bowden, and we did a walkthrough. We walked through the areas and I highlighted the areas, and she said that whilst the locks were her responsibility, the decorations, as it's phrased, which is basically the communal walls, exterior communal walls, which basically filthy, dirty, green mould, algae, black mould, or paint flaking off. They hadn't been touched since I came here in May of 2008. So for a long time, for around 13 years, they hadn't been touched. And they were, when I came here, they were in a bad state. So, and my tenancy agreement does say that the landlord's responsibilities, that they have to keep the decorations, i.e. the walls, the communal walls, in a good state, a good condition, and obviously they're not, with black mould, green algae, etc., paint peeling off the walls. There's nothing wrong with the walls, structurally wise. They're sound, they're solid, they're not going to fall down, they're perfectly safe. It's just the decorations. And whereas I am paying, I believe it's around £12 a week service charges, so that's for the upkeep of the car park, or small little grassy green area where people exercise their dogs, etc., and to keep the place in a good condition. I'm paying £12 a week, so imagine that by 30 flats. I imagine that for 2-bedroom flats are paying substantially more, maybe 20, I don't know, I'm just guessing here, but they're certainly paying more than what I'm paying in a 1-bedroom flat. So therefore I'm paying for a service that does not, that we're not properly doing, as per the tenancy agreement. So Emma said she would fix the locks, and pass on the information about the communal wars. Now, whilst we were going through our walkthrough, a young couple approached us with their two small children. Now, this young couple, Tom and Amy, they're around 30 years old, they were at the time, and they actually are my next door neighbours. They lived right next door to me at Charlton House. And I heard them a lot, but I very, very rarely saw them. I would see Tom more than Amy. Lovely couple, they were, nice couple. But I would hear them a lot, having small children, a girl, probably at the time maybe 8 years old, and a boy around 4 or 5 years old. And when I saw Amy and Tom and the kids approach, I was shocked to see the state of Amy. Amy is a slight young woman, and her stomach, her belly, was absolutely massive. I've never seen a woman so big. She was obviously heavily pregnant. And I, in my warped sense of humour, said to her, "Oh my God, Amy, what are you doing? Expecting quadruplets?" And she responded, "No, twins." And I said to her, because I hadn't seen, I hadn't, the previous time I saw her, she didn't have a fat belly, so that's how long ago. And she said that the twins were expected to be born in the first week of May. So in about a month's time from meeting her. So that's went and gone. That was before Easter 2023. So days went by, weeks went by, months went by. I contacted or attempted to speak to someone from Sanctuary Housing numerous occasions, including Emma, the housing officer, without any joy. So I took what I call the last resort. I issued court action. I, first of all, gave them an intention to sue notice, and the breach of my tenancy agreement being the alleged offence, if you like. So I filed on the 31st of July 2023 my claim with the Civil National Business Centre. That is the organisation that deal with essentially the small claims court before the actual physical court gets involved. So that was done on the 31st of July. On the 20th of September 2023, I received an email from a solicitor, I believe he worked for Sanctuary, called Mohammed Yasser. And he filed what we call an acknowledgement of service. So I believe the date of issue of my claim by the Civil National Business Centre, I posted off on the 31st of July. I believe it was the 18th of September. It takes quite a long time. So we issued it on the 18th of September. But 2 days later, I get an email from this Mohammed Yasser, and it was an acknowledgement of service, which means basically he has 4 weeks to file a defence if they wish to challenge my allegations against them. So that's what he did. So I then rang the legal department at Sanctuary, and I spoke with Mr. Yasser. Now, Mohammed Yasser was a fantastic person with my dealings with him. He was courteous, he was respectful, and he was a pleasure to talk to. So over the next several weeks, negotiations took place, uh, and he organised for a surveyor to come round. So it was late August, I believe it was around the 27th of August of 2023, but a surveyor met with me and was accompanied by the housing officer, Emma Bowden, to survey the areas subject to my legal claim. The surveyor's name was David Shorland. Now he did his inspection. He was here for about 15 minutes. Did his inspection. He was taking photographs of the areas, and in his report, he said that the doors needed replacing, needed fixing, and the paintwork, the walls, communal walls, the decorations, as it's termed, were a cosmetic issue and would be done, when it was our turn, if you like, as part of the scheme plan. For example, they'll paint it every 20 years, every 15 years, whatever, I don't know. I've never seen a plan. No one seems to have seen a plan, despite both me and others asking to see such a plan. So, coming towards the end of the 4-week period, that is the period of filing a defence, I felt, as did Mr. Yassir, we were getting close to an agreement, and he asked for more time, an extra couple of weeks. And I said, well, yeah. So I then submitted an offer of full and final settlement of £800, and of course for the works to be carried out. That offer was rejected by Mohammed Yassir, or by Sanctuary, whoever it was, but he told me my offer was rejected. I based my offer on 3 years worth of service charges. So I wanted 3 years worth of service charges repaid, which totaled roughly about 800, plus a few pounds for my expenses, which weren't great at this stage. I didn't have legal representation. I didn't think I needed it because this was a simple matter, just a contract breach and the doors. So then I reached out to him again on the 4th of December 2023. I sent him an email, and I had a strange response, and it was just one sentence. It said, Mohammed Yassir no longer works for this company. That's all it said. So that's the background leading up to this letter, which you can see here. This is my statement. This is the actual statement which I will be presenting in court, and I'll go through this statement now. So this is the statement then. On the 6th of November 2023, I received an email from the Matthew Lake informing me that his company, Waitman's LLP, were now acting for the defendant Sanctuary Housing in my claim K14ZA907. On the 18th of December 2023, I received the directions questionnaire from the Civil National Business Centre, CNBC, in brackets, through the post. Now, just to tell you what that is, for those of you who don't know, it's just how you wish to proceed. But the Civil National Business Centre see it as a straightforward matter, as do I, and what happens is you have to fill in that form whether you agree or disagree, what comments you want to make, and they gave a time limit, which I'll come on to in a minute. So I received that, so naturally Sanctuary Housing would have received the same. So carrying on then, so in this correspondence it stated the N180 document, that's the directions questionnaire, had to be sent to both the Civil National Business Centre and the defendant no later than the 5th of January 2025. I sent my copies via the Royal Mail signed for service, and my copies were received by both Sanctuary Housing and the Civil National Business Centre on time. I know that to be true because I send everything, as I say, by the Royal Mail signed for service, so you have physical evidence. They were received at Sanctuary Housing and they were received at the court of the Civil National Business Centre in the time schedule. So I didn't have a problem. So following that, I telephoned the Civil National Business Centre on Thursday, the 11th of January 2024, as I had not yet received the defendant's copy of the directions questionnaire, the form N180. I was somewhat surprised that during this telephone conversation, so I'm talking to the Civil National Business Centre, they informed me that neither Matthew Lake nor Waitman's LLP were listed as being the defendant's legal representatives, and that I was to direct all necessary documents to the Sanctuary Housing Legal Department. So that, of course, puzzled me, but that's what we said. And during the phone call, they said that, well, I won't tell you what we said in the phone call because it's detailed here in the next paragraph. All I did was then all future documents then was I engaged with Sanctuary, not Matthew Lake or Waitman's, as per the Civil National Business Centre's directions. So the next paragraph, in February 2024, I received correspondence from the Civil National Business Centre which contained a copy of an email sent to Waitman's by an Abu Tarek, dated the 12th of February, that's 2024, stating that he was returning all documents sent to the court, or sent to the Civil National Business Centre by Waitman's, as they were not listed as the legal representatives of Sanctuary Housing. So, I'm puzzled. On Tuesday the 27th of February 2024, I received from the Civil National Business Centre a copy of an N24 form, which was sent to Waitman's. Now that's basically a directions form. The N24 letter stated that unless Waitman's filed with the Civil National Business Centre form N434 no later than the 6th of March 2024, the defence would be thrown out and I were able to file for a default judgment. So there again, they had filed a defence, which I know I received a copy of defence in January of 2024, and the courts, because it was filed by Waitman's, by Matthew Lake of Waitman's, the court would not accept it because what we have to do is this N434 form, they have to notify the court of a change of legal representative. And they had not done that. So that's what I was told. Now, because I received a letter on the 24th of February, I called the court because, it was dated the 24th of February. I received it, I believe it was the 28th of February. It could have been the 29th, right by the end, because it was a leap year, obviously. So I received it, and I called the court because the timescale were given within 7 days, it was ridiculous. And they told me that no, it had to be filled out by the 6th of March. So this is a copy of this form, this N24 form, which is ordering Matthew Lake and Wakeman's LLP to file the correct paperwork with the court, or the defence would be struck out, and I would be able to file for a default judgment. So they had until the 6th of March. So on the 8th of March 2024, I telephoned the Civil Notice Centre and was advised that the defence had indeed been thrown out on the previous day. I therefore applied for a default judgment for £10,000, which was granted on the 8th of April 2024. So, the next paragraph, I was made aware by the CMBC, the Civil Notice Centre, that Matthew Lake from Wakeman's had repeatedly made complaints to the Civil National Business Centre, stating that they were mistaken in requesting that Wakeman's needed to file Form N434 as there had been a change of solicitor, whilst he argued that there had been no actual change. So that's Matthew Lake, that is. So there's been an obvious change. Mohammed Yasser, solicitor, leaves employment of sanctuary housing. Matthew Lake takes over. Matthew Lake is a solicitor. There is a change of solicitor. It's, a primary school child, a preschool child will be able to tell you that. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So that was granted, and say there had been a change of active ancestor, and after I'd received the default judgment of £10,000, Matthew Lake of Wakeman's filed this form, this N434 form, and then appealed the default judgment. So at the end of this paragraph here, on Thursday the 10th of May 2024, a hearing was held. This is at the Torquay and Abbott County Court, before a judge, I believe it was Judge Eaton Hart, and he set aside the judgment, which I think was deeply unfair. So we had to then return to court on the Thursday the 31st of January for what is called a direction series. So in that it would be set out how my case would proceed. So on the 31st of January 2024, a direction hearing was held at the Torquay and Abbott County Court. The judge ordered that an independent joint surveyor be appointed to inspect the areas subject to my claim. Mr. John Collison was appointed to carry out this inspection, which he undertook in my presence. So, I'll just pause it again there. So, one of the conditions was, obviously, don't forget the place had been inspected by David Shorland, I believe it was the 27th of August 2023, and also, I believe, after that date, either November or December, a gentleman also from Sanctuary, a bloke called Darren Freem, who I do know vaguely, also carried out an inspection, a surveying inspection. So that's two surveyors. So now we want a third surveyor now. And this surveyor, it was agreed by myself, and we had to sort out between ourselves. That's me and the and Sanctuary. Matthew Lake gave me a choice of two, and I chose a John Collison from Plymouth. He was an expert surveyor. So Mr. John Collison was appointed to carry out this inspection, which he undertook in my presence. Mr. Collison published his report on the 18th of July. So the actual inspection took place the day after the general election. That was on Friday, the 5th of July. It was around 5 p.m. in the evening. I remember it well. It was dark, even though it was summer. It was chucking down with rain. I remember that well. John Collison published his report on the 18th of July. His report fully supported my claim. In his report, Mr. Collison estimates that the total costs of the works needed, subject to my claim, amount to £1,350, including VAT. So that was an expert report. That was appointed by a court-appointed surveyor, the third surveyor I know of, and that was his report. So basically, my claim was upheld 100%. Obviously, that's part of my tenancy agreement, where the decorations have to be, that's the communal walls, have to be in a respectable state, not black mold, green algae, paint flaking off, etc., which clearly they were not. So, the last sentence of that paragraph: the legal fees submitted by Wakeman's for the 4 court hearings thus far exceed £20,000. So I'll go into that more detail later on in this video about the expenses. But here, the expenses for the 2 hearings were in excess of £10,000. That is the hearing to appeal the default judgment, and the hearing for the directions hearing. So the hearings on the 10th of May, a court hearing before a judge, and a hearing on the 31st of May, a court hearing before a judge. So they're charging over just about £5,200 per court case is what the legal fees are by Wakeman's. So a court date was set. This is back in the directions hearing. So the judge, this is the 31st of May 2024. So the directions hearing would be the surveyor to come out. That was to be paid 50-50, so one surveyor, so it would be a joint surveyor. So he would be acting on behalf of the court. He would be representing both me and Sanctuary Housing. Matthew Lake did want 2 separate surveyors. He has one, I have one, which is despicable, dirty tactics, which I'll come on to later on. So, a court date was set by the judge for the first available date in September. That was set in, I'll say, the 31st of May. So as we were approaching that date, and I'd made 2 or 3 offers of settlement, which I never even received a response to. I then, because the date was coming, I didn't want to go to court, and I proved now that this is not about money. I made an offer to Sanctuary Housing, but they pay me in damages. Don't forget, the court awarded me a default judgment of £10,000. I, in my offer of settlement, made an offer of accepting £1, yes, £1, in full and final settlement of my claim. Also, I wanted my expenses, which roughly were around £400, to be paid in full, and also rent arrears, which I believe were around £747, to be wiped off to be cleared. So Sanctuary agreed. They agreed. They knew that having spent £10,000 already on court fees, that should be able to go to court again on the 5th. So we set out what is called a Tomlin order. So Matthew Lake drafted out a Tomlin order, and it said those things. I would settle for £1. I would Sanctuary would pay my expenses of £400, which they did. They would write off my rent arrears, which was £747. Incidentally, the rent arrears were caused by me withholding some of my rent. I'm having quite good knowledge of the housing issues, and particularly rent. The grounds for eviction are very, very strict and laid out. And it says that you cannot be subject to eviction proceedings, I believe it's Section 8 of the Housing Act, unless you are 8 weeks or more in arrears of rent, and that is on the day we apply to the court for eviction, and on the date of the actual court hearing, the eviction hearing. So I was under that. I made sure I was under that, so it couldn't evict me on for non-payment rate under grounds 8, because I was not 8 weeks or more in arrears. So they paid off those arrears. So I signed it, and Matthew Lake signed it, and it was sent off to the court, the Torquay Newton County Court. Within a few days, Sanctuary broke the agreement. And we broke the agreement because, and they don't seem to get this, nobody seems to get this, but to me it's quite straightforward. So I was receiving housing benefit at the time for this flat, and part of the agreement was, as of the 8th of August 2024, all rent arrears are wiped out, leaving a zero balance. That's what it actually said. That's how it was worded. Now, because housing benefit is paid 4 weekly in arrears by the council, about a week or so later, the council paid 4 full weeks of housing benefit. Now that covered from mid-July to mid-August. Now, there were no housing benefit due prior to the 8th of August, so roughly around £350 I worked it out to be, because they had been wiped out by the agreement. So what it meant was that I actually had a credit of my housing benefit of roughly £350. I asked for this money back. Sanctuary refused. So therefore I wrote to the court, emailed the court as a matter of urgency, requesting that, because Sanctuary had already, in my opinion, broken the Tomlin order, I wish to remove my name from the order and have a full hearing on the 5th of September. And that is exactly what happened. The court agreed with me, and a hearing was scheduled for the 5th of September 2024 at the Torquay and Newton County Court. So the hearing, a full hearing, did take place on the 5th of September before a Judge Murray, District Judge Murray, at the Torquay and Newton County Court. So Judge Murray basically thought that I was mistaken. I don't know why. I disagree strongly, but in his opinion, the Tomlin order should have stood, although now it was voided. It had been voided by another judge without a hearing at my request, and he basically put in new conditions. He made a court order, and in that court order, he said that the works had to be carried out in a reasonable amount of time. He also ordered that I pay £100 towards the defence's legal costs, which I agree to be grossly unfair, as it says there. So that was in 2024, the 5th of September 2024. So what is a reasonable amount of time? Again, it's open to interpretation, I guess. So the last paragraph on this page here. So in November 2024, this is the last couple of weeks of November, a company called Mighty started working at Charing House. In addition to the works, subject to my claim, on the 5th of December 2024, I spoke to a manager from Mighty via mobile phone. One of the workmen dialed him up, and I spoke to him using one of the workmen's phones concerning an area not touched by the workmen. He explained that because of the small trees and plants, it was impossible to get access to the wall. The manager added that sanctuary workmen would clear the area before Christmas and would complete the work on return from the Christmas and New Year holidays. When the men returned to complete the works in January 2025, they were unable to finish the works as sanctuary had not cleared the area. So this is continued then. So in the spring of 2025, with the works still not completed, I made an application to the court. So I complained to the court, in other words, on the N244 form, because the works had not been completed. And I believe that from the 5th of September to I believe it was the beginning of the middle of May, works had not been done. And I believe a reasonable amount of time, in my opinion, had passed. And a hearing was set for Monday the 23rd of June before Deputy District Judge Baptist. The judge ruled that sanctuary housing must complete the outstanding works by Monday the 13th of October 2025. So that's what the judge said. So again, the works hadn't been done. The court hearing, again, another £5,000 plus expenses that sanctuary have incurred. And the judge given a date, 13 weeks it was, or was it 16 weeks? I forget. You can do the maths. And what I found out at this court hearing from the barrister, Richard Dewsbury, representing sanctuary housing at this hearing, in the waiting room, was that at some point between Judge Murray's court order on the 5th of September 2024 and Deputy District Judge Baptiste's order on the 23rd of June, the area where the trees, branches, the leaves and goodness knows what fauna was there had not been removed. A surveyor, yes, another surveyor, a fourth surveyor, had come out inspected the area, and he deemed, against a court order, that that area didn't need to be touched. In previous videos, I've shown you pictures. It was in an absolutely filthy, disgusting, mouldy, algae, black, just jet black wall. They should be white or butterscotch, whatever it's called. And we clearly needed touching. So, so that is 4 surveyors now. We have David Shawland, August 2023. Darren Freem, the end of 2023. We have John Collison's report. That was July 2024. Now we have the surveyor coming out sometime between September the 5th and between the court hearing here on the 23rd of July. Or 23rd of June, 23rd of June. 4 surveyors. And don't forget, Mr. Collison said the job would cost less than £1,500. That's what he said. Yeah, the expert said. And they've spent £25,000 now on 4 court hearings. 4 court hearings. Well over £20,000 they spent for works less than £1,500. So that was ordered by the judge. The works had to be concluded by Monday the 13th of October 2025. Now, on the 16th of July 2025, Housing Officer Emma Bowden, accompanied by a surveyor, attended a pre-arranged appointment with a tenant of flat 18 known to me as Barry. Now Barry had, he built quite a lovely barbecue area maybe 10 years ago, 8 years, I'm not sure, before COVID certainly. He built an area of decking he was allowed to by sanctuary. He has a shed and he was allowed to build this area. And which he did, and it was nice. And then in I believe it was 2023, he decided to, I don't know, I didn't pay much attention, but he ripped it all up basically, and he was going to rebuild the whole area. This is in the spring of 2023. So to date, that never happened. So Barry made me aware of this appointment, and I therefore had the opportunity to speak to the housing officer, Emma Bowden, and yes, another surveyor, a 5th surveyor. The surveyor was very concerned about foundations, because Barry had do some work under the foundations of Sanctuary's property, and also I spoke to them. I hijacked them, if you like, spoke to them, and I showed them the areas concerned, and what was subject to my claim. So many years ago, Barry was given permission by Sanctuary Housing to build a patio and erect a shed at Charlton House. The patio was used regularly each summer, mainly for barbecues. In the spring of 2024, Barry sustained a severe knee injury and has been off work and is on a waiting list for surgery. This means that the work on rebuilding the patio has stalled. I was advised by Emma Bowden, the housing officer, and the surveyor that Sanctuary Housing would make the area safe, including moving a large mound of loose earth which was piled up against a large wall that needed repairing and painting. This did not happen. So that did not happen. The mounds of earth were not moved. So on Tuesday the 30th of September, on Tuesday the 30th of September 2025, I noticed two workmen, I'll show photos of that later in this video, stood on the top of a bank of loose earth, repairing and painting the remaining wall. This shocked me, as only a few months previously, around half of a mound collapsed, that's a mound of loose earth, and it was very dangerous for workmen to continue. I therefore asked the workmen to cease working on the grounds of health and safety, which thankfully they did. One of the workmen they went to their van, their Mighty van, that's a company, Mighty, not being a big van or that, went to van and telephoned his manager. I don't know what was said, but shortly afterwards, both him and his colleague drove away, never to be seen again. I have since attempted to speak with Sanctuary Housing, Mighty the contractors, and Matthew Lake for Wakeman's, and have not had a single response. Don't forget the court date was the 13th of October to be works to be carried out. It is abundantly clear that both Sanctuary Housing and Matthew Lake or Wakeman's have shown nothing but contempt to the court. Not only did they break the terms of the Tomlin order in August 2024, if they didn't in way of the financial way that I complained about, then they certainly did because it's stated in a reasonable amount of time. And, I'm speaking to you now on the Tuesday the 13th of January 2026. It still hasn't been done. So they've certainly broken that Tomlin order now. They have broken the order made by District Judge Murray, reasonable amount of time, and the order made by Judge Baptiste at the hearing on Monday the 23rd of June 2025. Works must be completed by the 13th, I believe it's 16 weeks, I believe she said. Had to be completed by the 13th of October. I believe that the court should therefore impose the strongest possible sanctions on the defendant. I am also requesting that the court awards me the total value of my claim, £10,000, and the return of the £100 awarded against me towards the defendant's costs by Judge Murray on the 5th of September 2024. I am also claiming an additional £2,000 which it has cost me in seeking legal advice and other expenses as a direct result of Sanctuary Housing ignoring 2, possibly 3 now, court orders. So the result of this then is that a further court hearing number 5, has been scheduled for the 10th of February 2026 at 3:30 p.m. at the Torquay and Newton Abbot County Court. So now I'm going to move on to the photographic evidence I'll be using in the court. This is EX Exhibit 8. So this, you can see the two men. The man at the rear, bent down, is actually painting the wall, and the man nearest the camera, nearest the ladder, he is scraping off the loose, flaky paint. Now, as you can see where he is stood, he's on the edge of the bank of loose earth, which, as I took this photograph, the earth was crumbling. It was crumbling. That's why I requested they stop the work. This, to me, is despicable. Cutting corners, putting people's health and well-being and safety at risk is absolutely disgraceful and shocking. And it's something I aim to bring to the attention of the county court. So in this photo, so that is the actual mound of earth. You can see the plank of wood there. That is the mound of earth that the man was stood on. The two men were stood on. That little bit there, that bit at the top there, you can see. Absolutely ridiculous. Here we have another photo of the two gentlemen stood right on the edge, the one nearest right on the edge, scraping raw of the loose earth. You can see where it's collapsed. You can see the ladder in the middle there quite clearly. So, following my intervention, requesting the men stop on the grounds of health and safety, in the end of November, beginning of December time, Sanctuary had, or contractors they employed, put up scaffolding on that area. This is where the mounds of earth were. So as you can see, there's scaffolding erected there. In a further photograph, we have more scaffolding, as you can see. That scaffolding, you can see underneath that scaffolding, that's where the men were stood. I don't know if you can notice, I'll just go close. You can see the white bits on the top of the earth there, underneath the scaffolding. That is where the paint was flaked off. So thankfully, somebody saw sense and we put the scaffolding. Don't forget, this was done end of November, beginning of December 2025, and the court's order was by the 13th of October. So we are 2 months behind. So here again, we have further evidence of the scaffolding erected. That's the shed area there, and that is the scaffolding that was erected to make sure that the job could be done in a safe way. And here we have the planks of the scaffolding on top of the wall, making it safe. Again, you can see by the wall there, between the plank on the right hand side and the wall, you can see the flaked paint which had been scraped off. So a man was actually stood on that bank of loose earth, as are shown in a previous photograph. So these next few photos were taken on Friday last. Last Friday these photos were taken. You can see here, so the mounds of earth still remain. So obviously you have where the mound of earth has collapsed, we have a gap in the middle. This is a small mound of loose earth here. And during December, in Dawlish we had continuous heavy rain, and it washed away part of the loose earth. And as you can see closely, you can see that is not, the markings on the wall there are not the earth, that is actually paint that is peeled away. As you can see there down the bottom, it is paint that is actually peeled away, which means that the mound which had fallen, this small mound which had fallen from the main mound of earth, it had subsided, collapsed if you like, is not being touched. And don't forget, go back to July the 16th when the surveyor came with Emma Bowden to speak to the gentleman from flat 18 who created this mess in the first place. The mounds of earth were not moved as promised by the surveyor and the housing officer on the 16th of July. Therefore, as that is washed away, and it will continue to be washed away because it's loose earth, then more of the work will be exposed. Therefore, the works have not been completed, and that was of last Friday, which was the 8th or the 9th of January 2026. In this photograph you can see more clearly that it's not stains on the wall. This is not the loose earth stains on the wall. This is where the paint has completely been flaked off, taken away. So the wall, as you can see, is not been painted because the mounds of earth were in the way. And the final photograph I want to show you in this video is this. And these are the, I call them railway sleepers. They're massive blocks of planks of wood. And they are the person, Barry, who is 3 years ago supposed to be building his new patio, which, you know, it's like a building site, if I'm honest. You know, he's now put these planks of wood against the larger mound of loose earth to try and prevent it from collapsing, basically, and causing any further damage. So that, in a nutshell, is the latest update on the shenanigans of sanctuary housing. It's ridiculous. It defies belief. They have, the amount of surveyors who have been here, the court orders they have broken. I, as I say, aim for the harshest penalties possible, and I will be requesting at court on the 10th of February 2026 at 3:30 the hearing starts. I'll be requesting that the Chief Executive of Sanctuary Housing is personally ordered to appear in front of a judge at the Torquay and Newton County Court to explain why his organisation, he's head of, Sanctuary Housing, appear to be above the law, ignoring 3 court orders. So I thank everybody for watching this video. I know it's almost an hour long, and thank you very much for that. Please feel free to leave any comments in the comment section down below, and I will be updating you, obviously, post the court hearing on the 10th of February. So please feel free to leave comments, and thank you very much for watching this video.